Okay, just to After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain where they were all alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and covered them, and a voice came from the cloud. "This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. This is the Transfiguration story. This is an important story in the time of the church as we are moving from season to season. We are moving from our focus on one thing to our focus on something else. So we have been in the season of Epiphany, which is a time when we recognize all the ways that God is at work. We begin to see his fingerprints everywhere. We find all the ways that God is revealing himself to us through his scriptures and through people and events in our very lives. Mary reminded us of God's continued blessings. Blessed be the poor in spirit. Blessed be those who mourn. Blessed be those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. She says this is a recipe for Christian living. Kyle reminded us beautifully of our humble place here in this world and in time as he reflected on all those who have gone before us through scripture, through the history of the early church, and then even in our church today. All those who have endured hardships and faced difficult circumstances, they remained strong in their faith, and that faith carried them through. And then Carol reminded us yesterday about this sturdy, solid foundation we have as we come to know God through his very words. There is light in the world. There is light in our darkness. We remember the beginning of Epiphany. It started with the night sky and a bright, brilliant star shining so bright that wise men from far away came and traveled to meet the Son of God. And then it ends with a bright light, with Jesus dazzling on a high mountain with Peter, James, and John, and Elijah and Moses. I myself have experienced a great Epiphany season, even though I wasn't here in church for over half of it. I was stuck in quarantine, but I was constantly reminded every step of the way of God's amazing love and abundant life that he provides through the life of the church. So we're moving into the Lenten season, and Lent also begins and ends on something special, and that is a hill. So it begins today on the hill of Transfiguration, where Jesus is dazzling white, whiter than anything can bleach. He's with Moses and Elijah, and Peter, James, and John are watching. And he chooses to step down from that glory. He chooses to climb down that mountain, gather with his disciples, and turn and face Jerusalem. He steps down from that glory, and he turns and faces that city where he knows he is going to be betrayed and abandoned, humiliated and tortured and put to death. He was on this high mountain, and we remember that Peter tried to tempt him to stay. He said, Rabbi, this is fantastic. This is good. We can build some shelters. We can stay here a while. This is something so beautiful. I never want to leave. But Jesus chose to step down. He chose to climb down that mountain and meet with his disciples and face that city. And at the end of the season of Lent, there is another hill, and that is the cross, the hill of Calvary where Jesus dies. During the season of Lent for us, it is a time for us for preparation, for self-denial and self-reflection and piety. It's a time for us to learn to lean on God and to trust God through this difficult road as we face that hill. And it's going to be a difficult road. We're going to remember that we are weak, that we are vulnerable, and that we are sinful every step of the way. But we're also going to remember that we are being carried. Because we have this light from the Transfiguration, we have this light from Epiphany, from all the ways that God has revealed himself to us. We are ready to face that hill. Whatever hill you have facing you, whatever cross Christ is telling you to pick up, you can do it. We can do it. We can face that hill together. Christ has already walked it. We're walking it with Christ. We know at the end of this hill, at the end of this journey, there's the hill, and that is the end of the Lenten season. But we also know that is not the end of Christ. Because 3 days later, Christ rose from the dead, and he shined a light that was so bright. It shines even today, and it will shine forevermore. So I invite you to the Ash Wednesday service, Wednesday night at 6:30. And I just pray that each of us have a blessed Lenten season, and each of us have a blessed journey with Christ.